This is CBC Vancouver News.
It's a day of consolidation.
And highway closures and more fires in BC sparked by lightning. But the hope is more rain will help.
And for the last 2 years, we've lost more than 6 people every single day.
BC sets another grim record as poison drugs claim even more lives.
I'm pretty mad. We came like 9 hours away.
My kids are heartbroken. I'm heartbroken.
And while Drake did go on stage tonight, many fans are still frustrated by Monday's concert cancellation. For joining us. After weeks of evacuations, choking smoke, and destruction, lightning has sparked dozens of new wildfires across the province. That's despite rain giving some relief for fire crews.
It's a day of consolidation, and what that means is that we do, bring our crews into areas that are closer to the high-value communities, working on lines that are well anchored in that allow for safe egress out of these areas if fire behavior was to pick up significantly.
BC recorded 47 new blazes in the past day after thunderstorms moved through. They were sparked on Vancouver Island and near Kamloops and Prince George. At least 400 fires are now burning across the province, and many areas are still very dry. Crews battling the Bush Creek fire in the Shuswap region. We're hoping for help from rain tonight. Officials say that fire's behavior has picked up, but there has been no major growth. Meanwhile, that fire damaged or destroyed nearly 170 properties just over a week ago. Officials are now notifying affected residents. Crews are also busy restoring power in that area. Almost 30 kilometers of power lines and more than 400 poles have to be replaced. And BC Hydro expects that number to rise. 3,000 people are still without power. And in the Okanagan, some evacuation orders were rescinded, but officials say properties north of Highway 97 in the West Bank First Nation have been added to an existing evacuation order. And Highway 97 itself has been closed since yesterday, just north of Summerland, after rock and debris tumbled down. Crews have been checking to see if it's safe to reopen. Still no word on that. Drivers are advised to take Highway 33 through Osoyoos or Highway 5A through Princeton. And another highway closure to tell you about tonight. The Transportation Ministry says Highway 1 is now closed from Hope to Lytton in the Fraser Canyon until 6 a.m. tomorrow. It was reopened between Boston Bar and Lytton for a time today after being shut down by the Kooky Creek wildfire, which is still burning out of control. BC has set a grim new record for poison drug deaths for the first 7 months of the year. The BC Coroner Service says 198 people died from toxic drugs in July. Mira Baines has more on the disheartening data.
It's a bleak picture when you look at the BC Coroner Service numbers. 1,455 for the first 7 months of this year is the most ever reported since the overdose crisis was declared in 2016. It means BC is on pace to record the most toxic drug deaths in a year ever.
And for the last 2 years, we've lost more than 6 people every single day.
Even with new ways to help prevent deaths, including a decriminalization pilot project for BC and Safe Supply, the numbers keep going up. BC's chief coroner says what's missing is a comprehensive plan for the province and wait time information for detox programs.
What we have said all along throughout this crisis is that there needs to be a continuum of care for people. It can't just be safer supply. It can't just be treatment. We need a range of options for folks.
Advocates are pushing to make Safe Supply more available and in smaller communities to prevent people from using tainted drugs. Helen Jennings, a Kelowna mother, lost 2 sons to drug overdoses. Both died alone and indoors.
There's no political will to bring about a solution that would work right now, which is safer supply.
Jennings says drug dealers need to be put out of business and more treatment and prevention programs are needed.
There's not enough treatment or recovery beds in anywhere in Canada. We need to be building that. We need to be talking about prevention and awareness, down to probably the age of 12 or 13-year-old kids.
The new numbers come as International Overdose Awareness Day will be marked on Thursday. It's a day to remember those who have died from overdoses and recognize the grief of family and friends. Events take place across BC. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
BC health officials say the first known Canadian case of the BA.286 COVID-19 virus variant has been detected in the Fraser Health region, but there is no increased risk to the public right now. The case was found in a person who has not traveled outside the province. In a statement, the province says it hasn't seen increased severity with this strain of COVID, and the person is not hospitalized, adding it was not unexpected for the variant to show up in BC, and officials are monitoring it closely. With back to school on the horizon and the potential for another wave of flu, RSV, and COVID, similar to what we saw last fall, there is some concern in the health community.
It has like 30 plus mutations in it, similar to how different Omicron had been initially. So that's, of course, the big fear. And with that many mutations, is there going to be a lot of what we call immune escape? So where it can not be affected, if you've been vaccinated, if you've had COVID before, that's not going to protect you if the virus is too different because of mutations.
Though only a handful of cases exist, the new variant has emerged across several continents since it was first identified in late July. It likely stemmed from BA.2, an Omicron descendant that helped spark a wave of infections in the spring of last year. Health Canada says current treatment options are available and effective, and it recommends getting another dose of the vaccine whenever you are eligible. A person shot in Mission yesterday has now died, and homicide investigators are involved. Yesterday, around 5 o'clock, Mission Mounties were called to Lamanlam Avenue off Cedar Street after a report of the shooting. They took a 45-year-old victim with life-threatening gunshot wounds to the hospital, where he died early this morning. Shortly after, there were reports of a vehicle on fire about 4 kilometers away near Doyle Street and Richards Avenue. The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team is now involved. It says it believes this is related to the BC gang conflict. A former BC federal political candidate has been charged with a dozen counts, including trafficking of a person under the age of 18. Wyatt Scott was an independent candidate for Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon. The Crown says the dozen charges are related to 2 separate incidents that took place in or near Chilliwack. Beyond the trafficking charge, Scott is also charged with firearm-related offenses, sexual assault, and unlawful confinement. He's expected to be in the Chilliwack Law Courts this Thursday. Well, Drake fans finally got to see the hip-hop star perform in Vancouver tonight at Rogers Arena, but not after a lot of frustration and tears for other fans after last night's show was canceled at the last minute. It's now scheduled for tomorrow. But as Joel Ballard shows us, many are furious after spending a lot of time and money to get here.
And I know when that hotline blink.
He's one of hip-hop's biggest stars, but last night, fans in Vancouver were left disappointed, like this family, traveling all the way from northern Saskatchewan.
They wanted to go to Drake. I made it happen. I got them here. We were at the door, waiting to go in.
Less than an hour before the show, it was canceled.
My kids are heartbroken. I'm heartbroken.
Rogers Arena nixed the show due to an issue with a newly installed video board. That show has now been rescheduled for tomorrow. But that doesn't work for everyone, especially those from out of town.
I couldn't reschedule my flight or the rooms for another night.
Outside the box office at Rogers Arena, there's been a steady line for much of the day.
I'm pretty mad. We came like 9 hours away.
From Prince George or Vanderhoof, BC.
Yeah, Vanderhoof, BC. So we're just trying to see if we can get our tickets changed tonight. If not, we gotta head back home.
If it's something as simple as a Jumbotron, a lot of people would have been more than happy just to hear him sing.
Some fans say they're in the process of getting a full refund from Ticketmaster, and experts predict tomorrow's show won't be sold out.
There will be an abundance of tickets because a lot of people cannot come back to go to the Wednesday show.
And he thinks there could be some sweet deals.
If you want really good seats, they'll definitely be getting them a lot cheaper than when they initially went on sale.
Back at Rogers Arena, fans seeing the show tonight have been lining up all day. Some since 7 a.m.
Drizzy, man, what do you mean? We got yeah,
yeah,
it's the boy. The boy. We got to be here show out for the homie.
God's plan. God's plan.
Confident Drake will take the stage.
Honestly, man, his lyrics just hit different for me. Like, I don't know why. I just feel it just allows me into his life, man. It's crazy, man. It's an experience for me.
Joe Ballard reporting. 2 weeks ago, Hello Ferries went full speed ahead after a rocky start. That new ferry service travels between downtown Vancouver and Nanaimo, offering an alternative to BC ferries. The CBC's Amar Parmar took a ride along.
Here I am outside of the Hello Nanaimo Ferry Terminal, kind of on the outskirts of downtown, probably a 20-minute walk to downtown. This is definitely a place that you're going to have to get dropped off by a car if you don't want to walk that far. Now, there's no real terminal or station here yet. It's kind of a makeshift setup they have. And you can't buy tickets here either. They can only be bought on their website. You see the two of them there, the Spa Els and the Staki. Only a few sailings a day, apparently more to come. Walking onto the ferry,
Be right there.
behind the seats, there's space for my luggage. I'm in the cheapest comfort section, $40 a seat compared to $20 at the BC ferries. The seats are very similar to those on an airplane, and if you're wondering, so is the washroom. There is premium seating upstairs, which includes priority boarding. I wasn't allowed to go up there once the boat was moving. This ferry rips through the water and was not bumpy at all on this smooth sailing day. It's a nice sail past Stanley Park, waiting to get off. At this point, I wish I had paid for priority boarding, as the upstairs deck gets off first. It took about 20 minutes to disembark. So, 90 minutes exactly from departure, I'm walking off in behind the Vancouver Convention Center. So for an extra $20 from Nanaimo to downtown Vancouver, it was an hour and 15 minutes faster than the BC ferry option. Was it worth it? For me, hello.
The distance is rather short for someone that really dashed towards the residence.
Amid security concerns, Ottawa looks to find a new home for the Canadian Prime Minister. That story after the break. Hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. Nice to be back with you. Last week, stunning images emerged from the small Northwest Territories town of Enterprise. The CBC's Juanita Taylor shows us a closer look at the town decimated by flames.
This property was the Poiriers.
Enterprise Mayor Mike St. Amour knows where everybody lives in his town.
This is the Flaman residence.
There were about 50 homes in this hamlet, but where houses and businesses once stood, now piles of ashes.
This is a hotel, motel that used to be there, Gateway Gas Motel. They had just finished renovating.
Mangled metal litters the ground, and trees that once surrounded the property charred. St. Amour says he personally delivered the news to 30 families.
The roughest day I had was calling the people, telling them that they'd lost everything. That was the hardest day of my life. Still hurts.
St. Amour is one of the lucky ones.
That on the corner is my residence.
His is one of about a dozen homes still standing after a ferocious wildfire tore through Enterprise on August 13th.
All we could see is a big plume of smoke. I'll give you pictures of it, and it was coming this way.
It's Grandma and Papa's house.
Natasha Cleary, a mom of 6, left as soon as the alert came on her phone. The fire destroyed her home.
It was very emotional. We both broke down and we cried, and I mean, the kids don't quite understand, but they felt it.
Across the Decho Bridge, Cleary's mother is also taking refuge after losing her home.
The reality is we lost 17 years of our life in that house and our memories.
It just moved at an unbelievable pace.
Fire officials say winds reached up to 80 kilometers that day.
That was one of the craziest days that I've ever seen or even heard of in terms of fire management in the Northwest Territories.
The situation so dangerous, fire crews had to be pulled out. St. Amour says his hamlet has been handling the aftermath on its own.
Step up. Quit talking and start doing. People's lives here.
He wants more support for his residents scattered across Alberta to help get by until they can return home.
We're going to try and get them here before the snow falls. With help or not, we're going to rebuild.
An Ontario man is facing new charges in connection with the death of 12 people. He's accused of selling them a product they used to take their own lives. And as Thomas Dagler shows us, he is still a suspect in several cases.
Once a cook at a Toronto hotel, Kenneth Law is now under investigation for more than 100 deaths around the world.
It's something that we would like.
Police accuse him of helping vulnerable clients kill themselves, and they found more alleged victims in cities across Ontario.
The police have laid an additional 12 charges of counseling or aiding suicide.
Investigators say from late 2020, Law ran websites selling a potentially lethal substance, plus masks and hoods, to clients considering suicide. Now, from Thunder Bay to Toronto, police have linked 14 deaths to Law. British investigators are examining a further 88 cases, and CBC News has found police around the world suspect at least 108 deaths may be tied to that one man.
In all, how many deaths are being reviewed or have been reviewed for links to Kenneth Law?
What I can say is we believe 1,200 packages, over 1,200 packages, were sent out to over 40 countries globally.
Families who lost loved ones have since found emails and receipts linking the deaths to Law's websites. This torn-up invoice was only found after 17-year-old Anthony Jones ingested the poison he'd ordered.
After I got 911 on the phone, he proceeded to scream over and over, "I want to live, I want to live."
Neha Raju was 23, Tom Windsor 29. Law's youngest alleged victim only 16. Several struggling with mental health issues. And many alleged victims appear to have found Law's products through a pro-suicide forum that remains online. Noelle Ramirez was 20 when she died in March.
She ran into a person who was more than willing to coach her through this and then in turn sell her the product.
Law has denied wrongdoing and remains in custody. He returns to court next week.
This is a case that's very widespread, and we could possibly see extradition followed by extradition to a number of countries.
Thomas Dagler reporting tonight. 93 potential unmarked graves have been found by English River First Nation in Saskatchewan. The discovery was made using ground-penetrating radar.
The discovery of the graves earlier this month was just the first step in what will continue to be a long and difficult journey. There have been 93 potential finds, but we know that's not a final number. We must continue to search these sites for more of our loved ones.
The graves were found at a former Beauval Indian residential school. Most are believed to be children and at least 14 infants. Chief Wolverine is calling on all governments to provide resources and support, including permanent funding for Indigenous healing centers. Support is available for anyone affected by residential schools. You can call the 24-hour National Crisis Line for access to emotional and crisis referral services. The number is 1-866-925-4419. 24 Sussex Drive is the Prime Minister's official residence, but no PM has lived there since 2015, and no PM may ever live there again. As Danielle LeBlanc reports, the federal government is exploring other sites to build a brand new official residence, one that would be modern and, above all, safe.
24 Sussex looks good from afar. But upon close inspection, it doesn't meet modern standards, especially when it comes to the security of the Prime Minister.
First of all, it's fairly easy to scale this particular fence. The distance is rather short for someone that really dashed towards the residence.
Pierre-Yves Bourgeois used to be in charge of security for Canada's official residences. Bourgeois is one of many experts who argue 24 Sussex no longer offers adequate protection against drone attacks, truck bombs, or snipers. The grounds are too narrow for comfort.
The building is sandwiched between the Ottawa River and Sussex Drive. If you consider the current situation with regards to public safety and security threat to our Prime Minister, this location is obviously not appropriate.
Since Stephen Harper left 8 years ago, the home is sat empty. Plagued by faulty electrical systems, mold and vermin, the residence is being completely gutted. It's unlikely 24 Sussex will ever return to its traditional role.
My understanding of it is there's no way to make that site safe at a reasonable cost.
Radio-Canada has learned Ottawa is actively looking for other properties to build a brand new residence. Potential sites include an idyllic spot down the street called Rockcliffe Park, where this parking lot could accommodate a residence that is big enough and safe. Justin Trudeau and his children currently live at Rideau Cottage, on the grounds of Rideau Hall, a situation many experts deem unworthy.
I think it's embarrassing that a G7 country can't provide a safe, secure residence.
I'm biased towards history.
Even those who want to preserve 24 Sussex believe it's time for Ottawa to make up its mind.
No one wants to spend money on it because no one will make a decision because they don't want to be criticized that they're doing something for themselves.
The Conservative leader doesn't object to a new residence as long as the price is right.
It should just be a very basic, secure place where a Prime Minister can live safely at a reasonable cost to taxpayers.
The government promised to settle the matter of 24 Sussex by the fall, but a new minister was put in charge last month, which could delay a final decision. The hope for many is that the government will find the political courage to put an end to this saga before the next election. Daniel Leblanc, CBC News, Ottawa.
There is a live shot from the University of Tampa. Tonight, Floridians are bracing for Hurricane Idalia to make landfall tomorrow morning. Forecasters say it could strengthen into a destructive Category 4 storm. Darius Madavi will have your BC-wide weather forecast right after this.
This used to be Beaver Creek. Right now, the creek bed is dry and muddy in some sections. There's a small pool of water where flies are feeding on rotting fish.
It's a natural part of this creek that it would dry up, but just maybe not for this long or not this early.
Beaver Creek normally drains into the Old Man River, which fills the Old Man Reservoir. Right now, the reservoir is less than half full. A number of reservoirs across southern Alberta are running low. Near Stavely, an hour south of Calgary, the Pine Coulee Reservoir is less than a third full. People who rely on the water for drinking and farm irrigation have been told to cut back. The nearby towns of Granham and Claresholm have reduced non-essential water use. The Bullducks run a farm and beef cow operation. Some of their farmland is irrigated, but their water supply has been turned off.
This is an exceptionally dry year.
They had to get a permit for some extra water for their 600 cows. Irrigated crops, including this alfalfa field, won't see another drop.
The agriculture industry is reliant on that irrigation, through dry periods. So it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, this is going to go down as one of the worst. The water sources, that's the problem. We've got springs going dry.
Look at that. That's nice horse hay.
Back at Heidi Eigel's, where she breeds rare Canadian horses, she says the way water is managed needs to be looked at.
I think we can do way more to help this creek. Maybe look at how we're using the water upstream. Look at licenses, water licenses.
It's bound to be a difficult conversation as demand increases for a dwindling resource. Brian Labby, CBC News near Pincher Creek, Alberta.
Hey everyone, my name is Grace, and today on Dirt Cheap we are talking about how to save your tomato seeds. Step one is you're going to harvest your tomato from your tomato plant. Split it open to get the seeds out, and using a strainer, just squeeze the tomato to get all your seeds out. And what you want to do is you want to get rid of all that jelly. Come over to the hose. Using a strong stream, you just want to spray off the jelly. It's important to remove that jelly so that your seed can dry properly. So once you've got it cleaned up, you're just gonna dump it out onto a paper towel and let it dry. Spread it out. To get your seeds off your paper towel, you just wanna lightly scrape them off, and then you can just collect them into your paper envelope. The benefit of having your seeds in paper is that will absorb any extra moisture rather than keeping it in plastic. And now you have tomato seeds for next year.
Hey, I'm Johanna Wagstaff.
And hi there, I'm Rohith Joseph.
And we're asking for 10 minutes of your day to go through the 10 things that the UN recommends we can all do when it comes to climate change.
Please don't leave.
No.
And also, the things aren't new.
We are just wired to not do them.
We promise you to help you figure out your brains, and you and your people can make better choices to combat climate change.
10 Minutes to Save the Planet is available now on CBC Listen and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On September 16th, join CBC Vancouver at the second annual Come Toward the Fire, a free outdoor festival celebrating Indigenous community, culture, and creativity. Visit cometowardthefire.com. And September is Literacy Month. Have fun and support the cause by joining CBC Vancouver's Dan Burritt at Dakota's Team Trivia Challenge on September 27th. For tickets, register at dakota.ca.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Time for our BC-wide weather forecast with climate and weather specialist Darius Mahdavi. Darius, lovely to see some rain on the south coast and elsewhere, but we're going to need a lot more to tamp down fire dangers.
That's exactly right. We should see fire danger come down somewhat by tomorrow evening, but in terms of the drought, this is where we're really concerned because we didn't do an update last week, but as of last Thursday, we now have 29 out of our 34 regions in drought level 4 or 5, which is really unprecedented in terms, I'm tired of saying that word, but it applies here as much as anywhere else because this is not a normal situation at all. These are really concerning numbers, and we're going to need a lot more rain inputs to bring this fire danger back down, or the drought levels back down, which will be a while yet. We did see temperatures come down today, the first signs of that low pressure system moving into the southern interior. Temperatures back down around seasonal, still high in the north and in the Kootenays, but expect those to start to come down tomorrow as well as the high pressure moves right out of BC and we see pretty low temperatures across the board. That'll also help our fire danger, part of why we're seeing it come down a bit today. In terms of the next 48 hours, we do see some rain come through the southern interior tonight and into tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we see a new low pressure system move in, bringing even more rain to some of these areas where we're really hoping to see it, reaching as far north as Fort St. John. Plenty of rain coming for most of the province. We're talking anywhere from 5 to 10 millimeters in a lot of places in the southern interior. We just have to sort of hope that it lands right where we need it. We might see some thunderstorms pop up in some of these places. Not great in terms of those winds, in terms of those lightning strikes, which could be a problem, but really good news in terms of where we'll see extra rainfall in some of these places. Now, tomorrow our forecast involves lots of cloud and temperatures coming way down in the south, and then really all we can hope for here in Vancouver is a bit of a reprieve tomorrow. Places close to the water should see some sun, a bit of showers inland, and then rain clearing up by Friday.
Okay, thanks very much, Darius.
Thank you.
And that is your late news for Tuesday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news at any hour, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a good night.